Fantasy finishes, guys. 2025 fantasy finishes today. Another episode for you. We've got running backs today. So we're going to break down the top 20 running backs. Let's get after it. All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Welcome in, Frankie. Another fantasy finish for 2025. We've got running backs today, man. You ready for this?
So ready for this.
This is one of the more fun ones here, guys, because these are some of the ponies that rode you into your playoffs, rode you into your Super Bowl. We got some heavy hitters to talk about today, man. A couple surprises, but I think the top five pretty well established guys that we understand here, but we're going to talk about these guys in the top 20, where they finished, talk a little bit about them, of you know, how they did this year, what we feel about them, some of the situations they maybe were in, and then we're going to look ahead to next year's draft and just give some insight on how we're feeling about these guys moving forward for next year. You ready to go, Frank?
Let's do it, baby.
All right, let's go. Coming in at number 20, we've got TreVeyon Henderson here with the New England Patriots, rookie running back. Love this, Frank. We talked a lot about this guy in the offseason. He came in at running back 20. He was drafted at running back 20, Frank. How do you like that? All right, so TreVeyon Henderson, drafted at 20, ended at 20, right where we thought he was going to be. 171 fantasy points, averaging 10.7 fantasy points per game. Frankie, talk to us a little bit about TreVeyon Henderson.
Guys, this was the dude that Johnny and I were calling out that he could help you in the back half of your league, and that's exactly what transpired. We knew it was going to take some time. Guys, Ramondre Stevenson is there and planted, meaning he has that contract looming, meaning they just signed him for a 4-year deal. So we knew coming in this was going to be a tandem approach, but when you take the running back, especially a rookie, in the second round of the NFL draft, you know he's going to get some PT. It's just, when is it going to happen? Well, John, it was awesome, man. I mean, really, it was a great rookie year for TreVeyon Henderson. I mean, to the point of he had 858 yards rushing. But, John, when you also look at then the receiving perspective, he had 42 targets, 35 receptions, 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 8 total touchdowns as a whole. Man, hell of a rookie season here. And what's fascinating, looking ahead into 2026, man, I don't know. I'm really looking at this as Ramondre's not going anywhere. I see a very similar stat line and very similar kind of play in a 2-back tandem approach for the Patriots in 2026. So if you're looking to draft him, guys, it's probably going to be around that 20 to 25 mark in terms of ADP.
Yeah, I think it is going to be the same. I think you're right. I mean, and you and I have talked about this. I mean, nothing's really changing with this backfield. Like you said, they signed Ramondre last year, 4 more years, and they paid this dude.
They did.
It's not like
over $30 million. Yeah,
right. So they love him. I think it is going to be the same. I think you're right. Now, I think the difference is, you know, Ramondre got hurt. TreVeyon came on. We were super excited. And what did he do? Back-to-back weeks scoring 27 points. You know, that's exactly running back 4, running back 3. It's exactly what we wanted to see from him. We're going to have that next year. It is likely that you're going to see Ramondre banged up a little bit, and TreVeyon could take a few games and have some of those big boosts for you. But I do think it'll be similar. I think it'll be a little bit better because he really struggled in the beginning of the season.
Big time.
He was learning the playbook. He's learning the team and the culture. You know, I mean, he had 1 game over 10 points up until week 9. And that's when Ramondre got hurt and then he took over. Now, because he broke out, you know, they did involve him a lot more, even with Ramondre. So there was more of a split, especially after the bye week. And he came out with, 28 points and 8 points.
It was awesome.
Yeah, so I think you're going to see a little more than what he did this year, but it is still going to be a full split. And with some of the injuries and other guys we're expecting to be in the top 20 next year, I think you're right. I think he's going to be right exactly where he was this year. But great season. Loved it. Frankie, when you did, let's talk a little bit since he's a rookie. We did a comp for him. Let's pull up our comp right now and take a look at this, man. So, Frankie, you comped him in the offseason leading up to the draft to Chase Brown.
Sure
That's
did.
a pretty damn good comp. Talk a little bit about what you were thinking with that comp and how it ended up.
Guys, it was because when you look at Chase Brown and what he was able to do after his rookie season, he was able to come into the fold, especially when you looked at what he did with Joe Mixon, especially the last few years. And then you kind of flash forward to knowing that TreVeyon was going to be kind of handcuffed with that of Ramondre, and then seeing the skill set That's the other big thing. Understanding that TreVeyon is a guy that you can toss it to out of the backfield, take a nice wheel route. He's a nightmare matchup for linebackers. Guys, same thing with Chase Brown. And then when you look at what Chase Brown performed and how he did this year, we're going to talk about that. Guys, it would be damn near the exact same, in my opinion, if TreVeyon didn't have Ramondre to what Chase Brown was able to do. So for me, man, I thought it was a great comp. I'm really happy that it ended up kind of working out in our favor, especially when you look at, TreVeyon rookie year, top 20 back. Love that. But yeah, it was a great call out on our behalf, John, because when you look at what the body of work Chase Brown's been able to do, flash forward to TreVeyon, it was kind of like a marriage made in heaven there, man.
All right, let's move on to the next guy here. We've got another rookie coming in the top 20, RJ Harvey of the Denver Broncos. Yeah, love this guy, man. We talked a lot about him preseason as well. Another guy like TreVeyon Henderson, we said, just hold on. Wait till his opportunity, and he's one of those guys at the end of the season that can win you leagues. And guess what? That's exactly what this guy did, man. Popping off almost 20 points for the last 2 weeks of the season, helping you win your Super Bowl potentially as well. But RJ Harvey, 179 total points, 11.2 points per game. Not bad for a rookie running back that you were plugging into your flex or RB2, Drafted at number 21, came in at number 19. So TreVeyon, RJ Harvey, drafted back-to-back right at 20 and 21, came right in together back-to-back at 20 and 19. Talk about RJ.
Guys, RJ Harvey was one of the other guys that Johnny and I were talking about that could win you your league if you can hold on tight. And what I mean by this is, check it out. In the first 12 weeks before the bye week was week 12 for RJ Harvey, he only had 3 weeks to where he had double-digit points in half PPR. Brutal. That's really tough. However, after week 12 in the bye week, he didn't have 1 week in single digits. Now, again, this is massively due to J.K. Dobbins getting hurt. Now, if J.K. Dobbins ends up being the guy, we probably don't see R.J. Harvey peak to what we saw him peak. But it was fascinating, man, because a lot of his body of work, we look at the rushing after the bye week, 35 yards, 75, 65, 50, 43. That's not where he really got the points, man. It was touchdowns. When you look at how many touchdowns he had after week 12, rushing alone, he had 5. And then you pair that with 1 additional touchdown from a receiving work perspective. And then you layer on the target share. Guys, it was fascinating. He ended up getting 4 targets, 6 targets, 5 and 6 over the course 4 out of the 5 last week. So what we're getting at is, looking at 2026, it was a hell of a rookie year for RJ Harvey, and we saw why they took him, where they took him in the NFL draft in round 2. Now, thinking forward ahead, though, John, I'm a little bit on edge with RJ, and I say that because is J.K. Dobbins coming back? I don't know. Probably not. So then you start looking at some of the other options that they have. Will they draft another running back? I would probably say no. So then you look at some of the other free agents. Is there a Rico Dowdle? Somebody like that can come in and really supplement what J.K. Dobbins was doing. So what I'm getting at is there's a little bit more uncertainty in this backfield. I don't know if Sean Payton's going to be looking at RJ Harvey as the sole back. Certainly he could be. We've seen him handle that workload at UCF. However, looking at Sean Payton historically, it's been a 2-back tandem. Think back to Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara and the way he's kind of approached this in previous seasons. So for me, man, I'm really excited about RJ Harvey, though I'm level setting expectation on next year, and we got to really be in touch with what's going on in that Broncos backfield.
I think you're absolutely right. They're going to have another running back with him in that backfield. It will happen. I think TreVeyon and RJ Harvey, looking at next year and looking at this year, they were almost identical. And I think it's going to be the same thing next year moving forward as well. They're going to have a Ramondre type, a Rico Dowdle type running back in there, running between the tackles, first and second down. I can see that happening. RJ Harvey then doing what he does best. So without an injury in front of these guys to, kind of the bruiser back, I think they're going to be exactly where they are, right around that 20 range. But I think they're going to be excellent guys with massive upside if they do get the ball and do get the backfield to themselves for a handful of games, which is always very likely. That's where you draft these guys. So, yeah, I see them both right about the same, man. I love it. Now, with RJ Harvey, you did a rookie comparison as well.
Sure
Frank.
did.
Yeah. Now, this one I like a lot, man. Austin Eckler. Let's pull this up. I love it. Austin Eckler is who you compared RJ Harvey to coming in as a rookie. How did that work out for you?
Guys, it ended up working out pretty well. And here's why. Statistically speaking, when we look at Austin Eckler's first year in the league in half PPR, he ended up having 93 points in total. And then his second year was 151. When we're talking about RJ Harvey, guys, he ended up having 180 points in a two-back tandem. So what I'm getting at is he was a very similar back to when Austin Eckler kind of came in and was reprieve for that of Melvin Gordon. That's where my mind was going, knowing that J.K. Dobbins is going to be that workhorse back. R.J. Harvey's going to be change of pace and that receiving threat, very similar to what we saw from from Austin Eckler. Now with Eckler, it really did take him to 2019. So it would be his third season to really take over and spike and end up being the guy. And from there, he ended up having 3 monster seasons, etc., and became the Austin Eckler people know and love. But for me, man, I thought it was a great comp, a great call out based on the dynamic as well as based on the roster makeup as well.
Okay, let's go to number 18 running back of the year is Jalen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 184 fantasy points total, 12.3 points per game. I really like that per game average there. All right, Jalen Warren, drafted as the 30th running back overall, ended up coming in at 18. Frankie, talk about Jalen Warren a little bit.
Guys, Jalen Warren, it was really interesting. It was a tale of two tapes, meaning earlier in the season, Jalen Warren was the guy. He was fully the lead in this backfield. We actually were kind of concerned with Caleb Johnson, etc. Here, the rookie didn't show up at all. Guys, it was a brutal showing for that rookie, knowing where they drafted him. I thought he was going to take the cake, and here it wasn't so. Actually, man, what it was, again, as I mentioned, it was Warren in the beginning. When we start talking about the amount of points he had, first off, this is the most amount of points he's had in his career from a fantasy perspective. Fascinating. But secondly, he actually died off towards the end of the year. And what we saw was Kenneth Gainwell step up. And so when we look at Kenneth Gainwell and we look at Jalen Warren, again, Jalen Warren had a 58, 80%, 53, 65, 62% snap share. Towards the end of the year, when we look at weeks 15 on, it was 45, 49, and 32%, where Kenneth Gainwell was actually outperforming him. And so, again, if you had Jalen Warren, you were hot on him, hot to trot early on with 3 double digits in a row, and then it kind of plateaued, but he really had a pretty solid floor, guys. This was one of the guys that you drafted. You didn't have to spend a lot of capital on him. It was kind of a late round, mid-round pick. And so you received that back knowing he was a top 20 round running back. Moving into 2026, I'm super hesitant about Warren. The way Gainwell came on, to me, it looked like Gainwell was the better back. I could be crazy, but it really felt that way. And there's something inside, man, that's telling me don't give up on Caleb Johnson yet. He was a rookie. We have a lot to see. Yeah, he had that fumble with the kick return and all that shit. You don't do that in Mike Tomlin's team. And, he got punished for it. And so what I'm saying is I think that there's going to be kind of a carousel here, maybe a 3-back, a 2-back tandem next year. And for me, man, I'm not sure if I'm really wanting to get my hands in that backfield per se.
Yeah, there's always something you don't see coming, and that happens in fantasy football. And I think Kenneth Gainwell might be the biggest piece of it.
Totally.
I mean, it's really not anything anybody saw coming at all. We thought he was just going to be there as kind of a safety valve, kind of like what he was in Philadelphia, coming in, for relief duty.
Yeah.
We also thought Caleb Johnson was going to be a thing. I don't know if the guy, what?
I mean,
I don't know what happened. We're going to have to dig into that, guys, next year leading up to the drafts because what do we do with him? Is he just not going to be drafted? What if he is worked into the backfield? So I don't know. You're right. I think it is going to be a carousel. Kenneth Gainwell, by the way,
was
just missed this episode. He was number 21. Yeah.
Think about that.
So, yeah. Pittsburgh had the number 21 and the number 18 running back. And, when you look at that going into next year, I don't know. We need to see if there's going to be any structure change or anything, but you're right. As of right now, looking into a backfield with potentially 3 players here, I'm probably going to stay away. I mean, Jalen Warren got you a beautiful floor, 12.3 points a game. Gotta love that. But his ceiling was gone. There was zero upside as long as Kenneth Gainwell was on the field with him. Yeah, I agree, man. All right, let's move on here. Let's get to our number 17 running back. Breece Hall of the New York Jets. 189 total fantasy points, a few more than Jalen Warren. 11.9, almost 12 points per game for Breece Hall. Breece Hall was drafted at number 16, comes in here at number 17. So right about where we thought, but wasn't quite the year that we thought he was going to have. It's how he got there, Frankie, right? That's not what we expected out of Breece Hall.
It's gross. I mean, it was gross all year long. But here's what's fascinating. When we just look at the numbers and not the player itself, he actually had a PR, most rushing yards he's had in his career in one season, over 1,000 yards. And then in addition, he had 4 rushing touchdowns. Guys, that's tied for second most in his career, right, with his rookie year. And then when you look at his receiving, that's what was significantly down. When you start looking, he only had 48 targets. In comparison, the last 2 years, he had 76 and 95 targets. And then you look at the receptions, he had 36 receptions this year versus the last 2 years, 57 and 76. And so, guys, then you look at, okay, touchdowns, he had 1 receiving touchdown. This was a very fascinating year for Breece Hall. Terrible for fantasy owners because it was miserable. You didn't have any boom weeks, very few at that, right? When we look at his game log, I mean, John, it was outside of week 8 against Cincinnati, week 10 against Cleveland, and week 17, he didn't really eclipse those monster type of weeks, meaning over 16 points. And so he just had a baseline floor. It was miserable. But here's why I'm excited. This dude is not going to be a Jet next year. I would bet everything on it, right?
Very
I just
likely,
don't. Yeah. He's not going to be a Jet. I would be shocked. They're offloading
the fact
all
that
this
they didn't
talent.
trade him before the deadline this year, I can't believe that happened.
It's
I
crazy.
can't believe they didn't trade him.
No, and you have Braylon Allen as a Jet fan, right? Or a Jet organization piece. You have Braylon Allen behind him, who's a stud. You're just waiting. He's waiting in the wings. And Isaiah Davis is a fairly solid change of pace back. Breece Hall needs to go to the Chiefs. That's what I'm saying. I'm putting it on the record. He needs to go to the Chiefs. I want to see this dude in an actual legitimate team that has a decent offensive line, a decent quarterback, and a good options around him from a receiving core. That way teams can't stack the box. I want to give this cat a chance. And so for me, man, I have Breece Hall circled. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with him. If he does stay with the Jets, God forbid, John, he might be off my board again. I'll be honest with you. He might be off my board. I just feel like it's going to be tough to take him. I looked at him as a steal this past year, finished top 17. John, Breece Hall, from where he was going, he was 16, so it wasn't really a steal. You didn't really lose any value. But for me, man, where you're going to see value is if he can get his ass off of this Jets team.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes for Breece Hall. This will be a guy we're going to discuss a lot next year leading up to drafts because of that same reason.
Yeah.
If he stays with the Jets, I don't want a guy who's just getting 11 points a game.
No.
And just going to give you a floor with 0 upside and 0 ceiling. I don't want that guy. But if he gets a quarterback, if they can get some type of passing game going
anything
at all, there was nothing.
No, even when Garrett Wilson
their
was
number
there.
one receiver outside of after Garrett Wilson got hurt, their number one receiver was Mason Taylor, a rookie tight end.
It's crazy.
I mean, come on, man. This team's got to get their shit together. But you're right. Or he could be on another team. I mean, we talked about it when we did the quarterbacks episode, the top 15 quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes needs that pass-catching running back.
Big time.
Just somebody younger, more durable, and more agile than Kareem Hunt. That's what Breece Hall is, guys.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll keep you abreast of what's happening with Breece. But, yeah, really boring season, really disappointing if you're a Breece Hall fan.
It was tough.
Yeah, you know, it's just, again, one of those guys who was just all floor on a shitty team. All right, let's get to number 16 here. We've got Rico Dowdle, Uncle Rico.
Oh, boy.
How about this guy? What a surprise of the year as well, man. Wasn't on anybody's radar going into the draft at all. With the Carolina Panthers, sharing time with Chuba Hubbard here. He scored 194 fantasy points, 12.2 points per game. Rico Dowdle, drafted as the running back 55, comes in at number 16, Frank. Talk about one of the biggest surprises of the season right now.
Uncle Rico. John, last year, it was hilarious. When we were talking about him in Dallas, there was that clip of us that kind of went like pseudo-viral that was like, oh, is Dowdle dwindling? Like, I couldn't pronounce his name properly.
You didn't know how to pronounce it. Yeah.
And this year, put some respect on Uncle Rico's name. Because I'll tell you what, man, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, last year and this year, 6 rushing touchdowns this particular year. But here's what's crazy, man. He ended up having one more target than he did in the Dallas Cowboys offense. He ended up having the same amount of receptions as he did. He ended up having almost 50 more receiving yards, and he still had 1 receiving touchdown. So that brings him to a total of 7 on the year. Uncle Rico was the Carolina Panthers anchor for probably about 7 weeks, man. I mean, when you look at his game log, after really week 6, week 5 from Miami, when he exploded for 34 back-to-back 30-point-plus weeks, he really held on tight, man, only having 3 weeks before the bye week that he had single digits after that. So truly, man, Rico Dowdle was the anchor for this Panthers defense, so much so they started questioning Chuba. And they just re-signed Chuba, right, to a 4-year deal. So when we look about what we're thinking about for 26, this one is extremely difficult. Because do the Panthers also re-sign Rico Dowdle? I mean, he's going to have a heavier price tag than what he did on a 1-year deal, knowing that he was the anchor, knowing what he was able to do, but you're also already paying Chuba, a handsome little contract there. So you want to get Chuba involved. So do you move forward with the 2-back tandem? Or do we see Rico go to a team like that of Denver and get a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, something like that? Pair him with RJ Harvey. Rico Dowdle is going to be the one of the backs that we're really going to have to look at very similarly to Breece Hall. Think of him as a poor man's Breece in terms of excitement for fantasy, because there is some excitement there. Certainly Breece is kind of that tier 1. But for me, man, I'm fascinated to understand where this cat's going, because right now he's put together 2 very, very good, viable fantasy seasons in addition to 2 very good NFL seasons as a whole.
All right, let's get to number 15 here, man. Let's move on to DeAndre Swift, running back for the Chicago Bears. This was a guy that was very difficult to predict all year long, but kind of a breakout season, I would say, for DeAndre Swift and I guess the Bears offense entirely, I would say as well. 206 fantasy points for the year, averaging 13.8 points per game. I really like that out of DeAndre Swift, man. DeAndre Swift drafted after TreVeyon Henderson, after RJ Harvey, drafted at number 22. So definitely came in with a little higher than his expected fantasy output this year. Talk about DeAndre Swift, man.
Oh, you mean his best year he's ever had in the NFL? Absolutely, John. Guys, he had 2 yards less from a rushing perspective than his PR, his personal record. And in addition, he had the most amount of rushing touchdowns in his career this year with 9. But then when you look at some of the receiving aspect, and this is where typically he's thrived previously, this is where he was down, which was really crazy, especially in a Ben Johnson offense. 48 targets, 33 receptions, 291 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. Guys, from a target share, it's the worst he's had. From a reception perspective, it's the worst he's had. And from a receiving yard perspective, it's the second worst he's had in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So for me, I found it fascinating that Ben Johnson was able to get the most out of this cat on the ground, on the ground and not through just the air. And then when you start breaking down, okay, well, he must have had a couple really big time pop off weeks. It really wasn't the case. He kind of floated between that 13, 14 point mark when you kind of take out, the 26 pointers and the one year or the 1 week that he had 1 point. So for me, man, DeAndre Swift's a guy that I am actually excited about. He's a guy that when we look forward and we look to see what happens in 2026, yes, we're going to see Kyle Monangai. But again, think of Monangai as David Monty. Think of DeAndre Swift as a poor man's Jameer Gibbs. These are 2 types of backs that I am super excited to see in this offense with Ben Johnson. So what I'm saying is I'm totally going to be targeting DeAndre Swift next year. Even if that means if he's my RB3, RB4, that's where it would be great. If you can get him as your RB3, not so much as your RB2, and then really play the game of, okay, is it going to be a Kyle Monangai type of year, or are we going to continue to see Swift be the lead back in that offense? But either way, I'm on board with Swift.
All right, let me tell you the difference here between DeAndre Swift and Jameer Gibbs, because I agree. I think he is kind of a light, maybe an ultra-light version of Jameer Gibbs.
92 calorie.
92 calorie, yeah. Or did you ever see those little beers? I just found these, by the way. They've got the smaller, 8-ounce beers now, and they have IPAs, which is great. I'm going on a snowboarding trip. Yeah. So I bought a bunch of these. I'm going to stick them in my pockets. But he's like that little beer of
Yeah.
Jameer Gibbs. Here's the difference, though. It's 33 receptions out of DeAndre Swift. It's 74 catches out of Jameer
Completely
Gibbs.
different.
That's the difference. In order for DeAndre Swift, which I think he can do it, he is that skill set of back. For him to get and break into that top 10, he's got to have over 50 catches. And if he does that, man, I'm telling you, he could. So, yeah, we talked about it. There is the risk next year. There are so many mouths to feed. I mean, every position, every skill position for this team has elite talent.
Yeah, definitely.
Every single one.
Definitely.
Every one of them. So that's the big problem, is that he does have those weeks where he's going to disappear. There were a couple of weeks in there where he had 1 or 2 points. Yeah, so you're going to have that, but I see next year another year in the Ben Johnson system, another year looking like the Detroit Lions of a few years ago. I mean, really, and with Caleb Williams, another year of him. We talked about it. He's a rising star, man.
He's a big-time rising star.
I didn't know what to expect with him coming out. I was very cautious and said, let him show to me what he is. He's a superstar. So DeAndre Swift, I think, could be sneaky next year. I think a lot of people will stay away because of the Kyle Monangai thing, because of not being able to predict fantasy points on this offense. I think that will be a mistake next year. I think he's going to be underdrafted.
And John, to that point, guys, if let's just say you come in and he's projected 25th back, I love that. 30th back, I love that. That's the value you're looking for. If he comes in and he's RB15, that's when you need to make a decision. But I just wanted to call out as well, there was a teardrop. I want to be crystal clear. From Rico, Dowdle, Breece Hall, Jalen Warren, RJ Harvey, TreVeyon, and I'll throw in Kenneth Gainwell because he was right there. Guys, there's a teardrop then to DeAndre Swift. So DeAndre Swift and this next guy we're going to talk about, as crazy as it sounds, we're neck and neck.
Okay, number 14 running back on the year. We've got another rookie here, Frank, the third rookie in the top 20. Ashton Jeanty of the Las Vegas Raiders. 206 fantasy points, exactly like DeAndre Swift. Now, did you think that DeAndre Swift and Ashton Jeanty had the same exact amount of points?
Not even
Didn't
close.
feel like that, did it?
Nope, not in FPPR for sure.
What about average points per game? Almost identical as well. 12.9 points per game out of Ashton Jeanty. Now, what did I say? He just came in as the running back 14. Where was he drafted, Frank? He was drafted in that first, second round. Didn't quite come back to that. He was the running back 6 off the board. So a lot of people drafted him at that first, second turn. He didn't return that, Frankie. What happened with Ashton Jeanty, and what are you going to do next year?
Guys, Ashton Jeanty, this was fascinating because everyone had him circled as he's the guy. He's the guy. You look at a Saquon Barkley rookie season. You look at a Jonathan Taylor rookie season. You look at some of these mega rookie seasons, and you're like, this dude's going to replicate it. He didn't. And here's why. Well, let's look at this. Let's look at the data. 888 yards rushing, 5 rushing touchdowns. He had 68 targets, 52 receptions, 339 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. He had 10 touchdowns total. Good. Very good for a rookie season. The problem was the team around him. Guys, the Raiders are bad. We're Browns fans. I'm wearing a Browns shirt. The Raiders are worse than what the Browns are. You think about it, Geno Smith probably isn't going to be there this year. They fired their OC and Chip Kelly because it was not working at all. You trade away your receiver one, Jacoby Myers, and then you end up, you have Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, but Brock Bowers gets hurt. He goes on IR. All of these things happen, and Ashton Jeanty still performs as a top 14 back in half PPR. Here's why I'm excited. It's going to improve. I'm telling you, I'm on record. It's going to improve. The Raiders more than likely are going to have the first overall pick. They're going to get their quarterback. They're finally going to have the piece that they need. Secondly is they're going to get this quarterback a receiver. There's no way you're going to go out and use the draft capital that you have to get that quarterback and then not follow it up with a receiver, whether it's a free agent guy, an older cat, or a young guy that you're going to get in the draft. Either way, you're going to get a tier 1, tier 2 type of receiver to then bolster that receiver room because Trey Tucker's there, can certainly take the top off. But what we need is that kind of alpha cat. And then you have Brock Bowers, superstar, elite. And then you layer on Ashton Jeanty. Guys, you got to remember, when Ashton Jeanty was first playing as well, they didn't even let him in the backfield have his normal Michael Myers stance. They even were changing that. So eventually they made him go or had him go back to it to make him feel comfortable. We started seeing him performing well, but the offense as a whole was dog shit. So for me, this is actually really good for fantasy for 2026, guys, because what this did is this pushed Ashton Jeanty a bit back down the board, meaning when he was running back 6 last year, maybe he'll be running back 11 this year. And at that point, tons of value, huge upside potential. So I'm very excited about this guy. And he's done it not only through the rushing attack, but was very, very good through the receiving as well.
I agree, man. I mean, it was a terrible year for Ashton Jeanty if you're the owner, because you just expected so much more. You didn't really expect this team to be as dog shit as it was.
Right.
Pete Carroll's he's done. I don't think he's going to be back next year.
I was shocked with Geno.
Honestly. Yeah. I mean, he's one of those guys. It's tough, man. I mean, he had a great season in Seattle, but we talked about that with Sam Darnold. Moving teams. Was it the coach? Was it the team? He ended up coming over and playing great. And then you have Geno Smith leaving Seattle
and playing
terrible. It's the opposite scenario. So, yeah, was it Geno Smith or was it that particular system that worked well for Geno? Yeah, I don't think you're going to see Geno next year either. So there's going to be tons of hype because they're going to do something at quarterback. So I'd love for, the hype to die down and be able to get Ashton Jeanty at a discount next year, because you're right. When you look at the balance of receiving and rushing, he's that dude.
He's totally that dude.
He is that dude. He just needs to get some more volume and needs to get a better team around him. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
240 carries, and he only averaged 3.7 yards a carry.
He was getting hit in the backfield, man.
Of
course.
It was crazy. Up until one point, I think it was like 5 weeks in, he was the running back who got hit the most in the backfield. So, dude just didn't stand a chance. They've just got to build a better team around him. But they will do that next year. So the team will improve somewhat. I think it's going to open things up for Jeanty for next year. Definitely. Now, Frankie, we did Ashton Jeanty as well. Who was your comparison for Ashton Jeanty?
This one was, what? Okay, he's my favorite player of all time, LaDainian Tomlinson. And I get it. Like, listen, the rookie year did not show what...
I don't think it's crazy, Frank. I don't think it's crazy. When you look at his 52 receptions and 5 touchdowns as a rookie running back, 240 carries, I mean, that's LT type shit. Even though he was a rookie, he was on a horrible team. You build up around him. I still think he's got that LaDainian Tomlinson skill set.
I mean, dude, you think about it. When LT was there, he's a Hall of Famer. I get it. You're always going on a limb when you're comparing somebody to a Hall of Famer. But Antonio Gates, Brock Bowers, when you start looking at the receiving core, that's where they need these additional pieces to be able to set up, right? Keenan Allen was there for forever. And Keenan Allen was a big part of Phillip Rivers' success years ago, right? And so then we see Keenan Allen. He's been in the league for forever at this point. And so for me, man, again, Phillip Rivers was the key for LaDainian Tomlinson, being able to get him going from a receiving end perspective as well as rushing. Dude, I'm telling you, Ashton Jeanty is that dude. He has that capability. Again, I thought he was going to have a Saquon type of year. He didn't, because his team was so pathetically bad on all ends of the spectrum, really outside of a few guys. So, yeah, hold tight. I know it's a hot take, but I still think he's going to be able to get there.
Okay, number 13 running back of the year, we've got Saquon Barkley of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Saquon was the number 1 running back coming into the season. By a lot, yeah. He had one of those freak seasons last year, man. Coming back to a little reality here, Saquon Barkley at number 13, 213 fantasy points. What do we have? About 6 more than Jeanty and DeAndre Swift. How about that?
Think about that.
Yeah. 13.4 average per game. Pretty good average per game, though. Yep. I'll take that. And again, drafted as number 1, came in at number 13. So, Frankie, talk about Saquon.
Guys, 1,100 yards rushing this year, 7 rushing touchdowns. He had 50 targets, 37 catches, 273 yards receiving, and 2 receiving touchdowns, bringing his total touchdown to 9. Guys, here's the deal. Johnny and I talked about it. I was nervous about Saquon coming in. The only reason why is not because it's Saquon, but because of the value that you were not getting when drafting him. Meaning you had to take Saquon early in that first round. He was running back 1 off the board. Maybe he was running back 2 next to Bijan. However you wanted to look at that, he was top 2. Let's put it like that. And unfortunately, after such a gangbuster type of season last year, to where it was Saquon and nobody was really that close, you just felt like there was going to be a come to Jesus kind of moment, come down a little bit, and that's what happened. Guys, he still performed well. Like at the end of the day, RB13, etc. But the issue was the value was very much so diminished for where you had to get him. So what do you do with Saquon moving forward next year? Guys, I'm going to target him because now there's going to be some additional value. I probably see him being RB6 is kind of where I'm seeing this, John. He's probably after that of, I don't know, Bijan, Jameer Gibbs, CMC. I mean, you could probably Devon Achane, maybe Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, and then Saquon. That's probably where I'm seeing Saquon, which means there's potential you could get him at the back half of that turn for round 2. If that happens, you're going to be very, very happy, guys. There's a lot of shit that changed this year with the Philadelphia offense. Look at the offensive coordinator that moved on. They're trying to get A.J. Brown involved. There's a lot of issues from a receiving core perspective. You have outspokenness that causes a stir. You're trying to get shit right. The offensive line was hurt all year, and he still performed well. Guys, hold tight. This is a guy that, again, looking forward to 2026, if you can get him towards the back half of first or even early in the second round, that's where I think you're going to get value for Saquon.
I agree with you, man. I mean, I'm looking at his year-over-year statistics here. Obviously, 2024 was a crazy year. I mean, he had 345 attempts, man.
That's crazy.
60 more rushing attempts than he had this year.
60.
Yeah, but this year, when you look at his entire career, this year is much more similar to what he always does.
Yes.
So I think next year, I think this is kind of the baseline year. Last year was just a super freak year. It was a huge boom. Awesome. But I think this year, 280 attempts, 1,100, almost 1,200 yards rushing, and 7 touchdowns. His receiving was almost identical to last year. I think that's kind of the baseline as well.
Yeah.
35 or so catches for 2 touchdowns. I think the only real variable here for Saquon for next year, I think he's going to do pretty much what he did this year.
I agree.
If he plays all 16 games, which means to me, the only variable here then are touchdowns.
Yep.
He was down with touchdowns, but again, that's not a sticky stat. I'm not going to draft a guy saying, hey, his touchdowns are going to go up for sure. We don't know that, guys. There's so many mouths to fill on that team. It's going to be very difficult. So I see him right about the same way. I'll take him right around that running back 10 range, I think, man. I really do.
John, would you rather have Jeanty or would you rather have Saquon next year, knowing because they're probably going to be right next to each other? And if you're back half or whatever, you're going to have to make that decision. I'm just curious, where's your head leaning?
Well, let me tell you something, Frankie. Fortune favors the bold, okay? So I'm going to take Jeanty at that spot because of the upside, man. Yep. If they can convince me this offense should be better. That's the only way I'm taking Jeanty. But I think they're going to. They're going to address those needs on this team for sure. Tom Brady's in the back office. He's helping out. They're going to find a quarterback.
He might be on the field soon. Who knows?
I love it. Let's get to number 12 here. My boy, my champion. I like how he came in at 12. Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers. 219 fantasy points, 14.6 fantasy points per game. Whew. Nice, Josh Jacobs. Gotta love that. Josh Jacobs was drafted as the number 7 running back, so a little bit down year on his expectations here. Frank, talk to me about Josh Jacobs.
Guys, this was a solid year for Josh Jacobs. Sure, he underperformed in regards to where he was expected, but honestly, he missed a few games, right? He ended up missing 2 or 3 games. He was banged up like pretty much a third of the year.
Yeah,
I mean, call it what it is. And he still almost had 1,000 yards rushing. Guys, he had 929 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns, and he was actually getting it kind of done through the air a little bit. I mean, it wasn't anything extravagant, but 44 targets, 36 receptions, 282 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. I mean, overall, man, when you look at his body of work, he had 929 yards rushing, as I mentioned, this year. Last year was 1,300. The year before was 800. The year after that was 1,600, then 800, then 1,000 and 1,000. I'm just going to say it. He's one of the most reliable types of running backs that you can get in fantasy football. I think that especially when the value that you can get him, which is more than likely going to be probably second round next year. Guys, he's absolutely a second round target for me. I think it'd be crazy, it'd be blasphemy for anybody to think otherwise. Yeah, I get Emmanuel Wilson looked pretty good, and some of the things that he was able to do and come in and help, especially while Josh Jacobs was banged up and hurt. But for me, man, I don't know. I still think this is Josh Jacobs' realm. This is his team per se in the backfield. Obviously, it's Jordan Love's team, but it's Josh Jacobs' backfield with Wilson as the backup. And I think you get him healthy and you get things running right, man, I could see Josh Jacobs cracking again the top 10 next year, like closer to what he was, really in last season. So for me, man, I'm still high on Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs, if you compare Josh Jacobs and Saquon, their stats are almost
pillar
identical.
of consistencies,
They are, and they're identical. I mean,
Yeah.
I think these guys are going to be drafted almost back-to-back next year, Saquon and Josh Jacobs. Jacobs is one spot higher than him because of the 14 total touchdowns. I think Saquon only had maybe 8 or 9, something like that total. So that's the big difference here. And again, that's what we said. You can't predict where those touchdowns are going to come. But yeah, Josh Jacobs, super solid year. I mean, this is a guy that you can anchor your team on. I did it in a few leagues this year, and he was fantastic, man. He was banged up all year long, too. It was miserable having him because the dude was questionable every single week. I had to wait till Fridays with Frankie to even know if I could play him or not, man.
I had people messaging me, man. I had my brother, Drew, shout out to you, man, who won the big 14-man league. Is he going to play or not? Like, what the fuck's going on with this guy? So it was stressful for sure.
It was tough. All right, let's move on here. Let's get to number 11. We've got Javonte Williams. Big surprise in the top 12 here.
Wow.
Javonte Williams of the Dallas Cowboys. This is a backfield that we stayed away from.
Totally.
We had no idea what was going to happen here. Big surprise. You picked him up. You were super happy. 225 overall points, 14.1 points average per game for Javonte Williams. All right. This is a big surprise guy. This is one of those league winner guys that you drafted kind of like a Rico Dowdle, that they were drafted nowhere. This drafted number 36 off the board.
Wow.
Came in at number 11, Frankie. Talk to us a little bit about Javonte Williams.
Career year. Guys, career year. I'm looking at where actually people picked him up, where they drafted him. In our big 14-team league, he was almost round 9. He was pick round 8, pick 14. And so thinking about that in a 12-team league, guys, that's 9, 10, 11, right? That you're looking to get.
Well, you know what it was. You're drafting and you're like, fuck, all right, I'll take Javonte.
Take a piece.
I need backup. I need depth of my running back. I'll take. Next thing you know, you're starting the motherfucker all year long.
Every week. Every week. And you're happy. For the first, 7 weeks, he was running back 5 or 6, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Guys, this was great. This was a career year for Javonte. If you were a Javonte owner like myself, you were having fun each and every week. 1,200 yards rushing, 11 rushing touchdowns, 51 targets, 35 receptions, and he also had 2 receiving touchdowns as well, bringing his total touchdown count to 13. Guys, Javonte Williams was a Cinderella story for 2025 fantasy football. Here is where, though, the glass slipper kind of falls off and breaks, in my opinion. And I'm saying this because he had to go on IR. What are they going to do as the Dallas Cowboys, knowing you have Jaden Blue, who you drafted last year from Texas that didn't really get the shot, knowing you have Malik Davis, who looked really good? Do you re-sign Javonte Williams, who got hurt and had to go on IR after a Cinderella kind of year? Or do you just move on and find another plug-in piece? That's going to be the key. For me, if he's with the Dallas Cowboys, I'm totally willing to draft this dude. Yeah. Now, drafting this dude means there has to be value associated. Do I think that he's going to do another 1,200 yards? I don't know. Probably not, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think they look to get Jaden Blue year 2 a little bit more, maybe a poor man's RJ Harvey, right? Something along those lines. But for me, man, if he is not on the Dallas Cowboys, where then is he going? There's so many other things that need to be. Denver, right? He came from Denver, so I doubt that they'll go back.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So for me, man, I think we really have to see how this unfolds. Could the Jets do something crazy if they move on from Breece and bring him on board? Do you see him go to another team and be another part of a tandem like a Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard? I don't know. So he is a huge question mark for 2026, and we're just going to have to see how it unfolds. But the good news is we now have seen deterministically he can provide fantasy output.
Yeah, and whoever the running back is on that Dallas Cowboys offense, assuming you've got Dak, CD, George Pickens, Ferguson, crazy value, guys, because the lanes will be open. This is a throw-first offense, and they've got dangerous weapons. They've got 2 top 10 guys and a top 20 guy, that Dak's throwing to, who's also a top 5.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Yeah, whoever the running back is, I do see them. I can't imagine they wouldn't bring Javonte on. Bring a guy back 1,200
I
yards
would.
and
I
13
totally would.
touchdowns. I mean, of course you're going to bring that back. No, it's not a huge, running offense, but the lanes are just going to be open. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with this Cowboys backfield and with Javonte Williams. It's just too early to tell, but great season, man. Very shocking. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the gridiron action. Playing Underdog, it's super easy, guys. You just pick whether your favorite players are going to go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, so much more. Get them right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Frankie's called in a couple of picks for us, guys, and what we're going to do, the first pick he's got for you is Caleb Williams. Higher than 179 passing yards seems like a lock to me. We're going to pair that up with CMC. That's right, guys. Pair that up with CMC to just score a touchdown. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use the promo code FRANKLY to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code FRANKLY. Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing-terms_TFS_quote.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. All right, Frankie, let's head into the top 10 here, man. Top 10 running backs of 2025 fantasy season. We've got Chase Brown coming in at number 10 here of the Cincinnati Bengals. 231 points on the year, 14.4 points per game for Chase Brown. Chase Brown was drafted as the running back 11, came in as the running back 10. Man, it didn't think it was going to happen for a while, didn't it? It was a scary start to the season.
Super sketch.
We thought Chase Brown was going to be the biggest bust in the fantasy draft for the first 5 weeks. Got it together. Ended up averaging over 14 points per game. Talk about Chase Brown.
John, you nailed it. Guys, first few weeks, I just got to call this out. 12.1. This is all half PPR. 12.1. Then it was 7.5, 4, 8, 8, 7. Okay? At that point, you're shitting your pants. You're freaking out a little bit. You're like, what the heck's happening? Where's this dude? Joe Burrow's hurt. He can't get anything going on the ground.
Yeah, you drafted him in the top 10.
You're screwed. Yeah, exactly. And then it turned around. Guys, after bye week in week 10, this is crazy to even say this. He didn't have anything less than 12.5 fantasy points per week. Think about that. Since the bye, unreal run the back half. And so, guys, what he did as a total, I mean, he was excellent on the ground, very efficient, 947 yards. He had 4.32 yards per carry, so very, very good in that sense. 6 rushing touchdowns, but here is the golden kiss. 82 targets, 65 receptions, 419 receiving yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns, bringing his total touchdown to 10. Guys, Chase Brown is a guy in this offense with Joe Burrow, with the other pieces that they have in 2026. I'm circling again. I'm all about it. I want a piece of Chase Brown. Yes, we were freaking out. Yes, we were nervous for the first few weeks. But then when we saw the offense settle down, when we saw them get Joe Flacco instead of Browning, things changed, and then Burrow comes back, and then it's like, oh, okay, the offense is back into form. I'm all over Chase Brown. Only if Joe Burrow comes back. Only if Joe Burrow comes back. If something happens and Joe Burrow's no longer there and he goes to Minnesota or something crazy, man, then I don't know. I mean, you'll have to reevaluate. I'm sure he's going to drop from an ADP perspective pretty heavily. But as it stands right now, I want a piece of Chase Brown next year.
It was Joe Burrow tanked the entire offense.
I mean, it crushed him.
I mean, Jamar Chase was okay after a while. Yeah, I mean, and he was fine. I mean, his ceiling, he still had 14 targets, but he didn't have great games, you know. But yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow going down tanked this whole offense, and Chase Brown was the biggest. This is what we were talking about with the Dallas Cowboys. Cincinnati Bengals offense, similar to the Dallas Cowboys offense, too. Whoever's in that backfield is getting open lanes because they got to worry about Jamar Chase. They got to worry about T. Higgins. They got to worry about tight ends. A lot of weapons on this team. So yeah, I mean, Chase Brown, if Burrow's healthy, there's no chance he's not a top 10 running back. Look what he did this year with Browning and Joe Flacco.
Crazy.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So give me a full year Chase Brown with Joe Burrow. Yeah, I think we're good to go. Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, let's get to number 9 here. How about this guy coming in at number 9?
Uh-oh.
Love this, man. Travis Etienne, running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. 231 total fantasy points, exactly the same as Chase Brown. 14.5 points per game, almost identical to Chase Brown. Now, would you have told me in the beginning of the season as I'm drafting, Travis Etienne and Chase Brown are going to have identical stat lines? I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. Yeah. All right, Frankie, Travis Etienne was drafted at 32, came in at number 9. This is one of those guys, if you had him in your RB2, one of those league winner type guys that way overperformed. Talk about Travis Etienne.
Well, it was good to see his second best year since he's been in the NFL. And John, I'm sick about it because we were 1 year late. We were 1 year late last year. I keep going back to that Trevor Lawrence Etienne stack. That would have been, what could have been? But this year, man, it was awesome. I mean, seriously, it was like effortless. Is as weird as that sounds. He was one of the most undercover, not talked about, like kind of underappreciated a bit in the fantasy world kind of thing type of running back this year. I mean, and what I mean by that is over 1,000 yards rushing, almost 1,100, 7 touchdowns on the ground. He had 51 targets, 35 receptions, almost 300 yards receiving, and he had six receiving touchdowns, guys, which brings that to a total of 13 total touchdowns. Travis Etienne and this type of offense is gold. Now, certainly Basil Tootin could come in and provide a little bit of a, poke in your back per se, or a little bit of an issue, annoyance if you have Travis Etienne next year. But I think he's the lead back for sure. And man, when we start thinking about 2026, this Jaguars team is going to convince a lot of people, I think, in the playoffs, man, that they're for real, whether they win or whether they keep it close. But I think that there's a lot to build off here, especially with Liam Cohen. So in this style of offense, Travis Etienne, man, I love him for next year.
I do too. I think all Jaguars are going to take a boost for next year. I really do, man. Now, if you looking at the stats here, his stats through the air, now that's where his value is going to be, is through the air.
Yep.
That's what separates him. Otherwise, he is a 1,000-yard rusher, middle of the road
top
type
15 guy, 20
right,
guy.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Top 20 guy, yeah. What boosted him, though, is the receiving touchdowns. And I do think it's a bit of a charade around Travis Etienne. 6 receiving touchdowns.
Crazy.
Otherwise, his receiving stats are identical to Josh Jacobs and Saquon. The difference was those guys scored 1 or 2 touchdowns. He had 6. So again, not a sticky stat. I don't know that he's going to be in the top 10 next year. I'm not expecting that because you're going to have more of a split backfield. But if his receiving goes up, which it should, it can still keep him in that top 20. I think next year he's an excellent set it and forget it RB2 for you.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And I think the upside with him is if you can have a Trevor Lawrence and he can repeat nearly double-digit passing touchdowns, I think that stack will be insane for you next year. Yeah, I love it. All right, let's keep rolling here, man. Let's go to number 8. We've got Kyren Williams, of the running back of the Los Angeles Rams. 235, almost identical to Travis Etienne. Total fantasy points, 14.7 points per game for Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams was drafted as the running back 12.
Wow.
Came in at number 8. Okay, it seemed like a little bit of a down year for Kyren Williams. In my mind, he was still a top 10 back, which is fantastic. It just didn't feel like it.
Totally.
The past 2 years, it felt like every single week he scored a touchdown. Didn't feel like that this year. Was it just because they've added so much to the passing game with Devontae Adams coming on as well?
Definitely. Yeah. And guys, when we look at Kyren Williams, and I just want to call this out, there is a teardrop. So Kyren Williams, 8, Travis Etienne 9, Chase Brown 10, Javonte Williams 11, Josh Jacobs 12, and Saquon. Guys, they're all in this tier, this like secondary type of tier. And then we'll start talking about those top 7, top 6 guys. But for me, man, Kyren Williams, is he not, at least for the last 3 years, he's finished top 8 in every single year. In the last 3 years alone, he's had over 1,000 yards each year rushing. He's had double-digit rushing touchdowns. And he's also put together over 30 receptions each year and at least 2 receiving touchdowns. Guys, this dude has been the pillar of consistency and continues to be kind of undervalued. Now, the difference is 2026. Blake Corum has looked excellent, not good, excellent this year when he's gotten the opportunity. So now do we start to see Blake Corum take a little bit more from Kyren? And we actually started seeing that over the last few weeks. We called that out. It actually gave Blake Corum standalone actual real fantasy value because he was just actually not only getting the attempts, but what he was doing with them, and he was scoring. So for me, I still like Kyren. I am on board to draft. I had him this year. I ended up trading for him. But for me, looking at 2026, guys, this is one that I'm a little bit cautious about. I'll actually go on record to say I would prefer potentially at this point in time, end of 2025 season, it is January, guys. I would prefer to have the value of Blake Corum and then draft someone else next year at the value of where Kyren Williams is. And the reason being is because he scares me a little bit with the emergence of Corum. We could see a step back. I mean, when we look at his game log, I mean, he still had, week 14, it was 51% snap share, week 15, 54, and then 16 and 17 when Corum was out, he was back to 71% snap share. But with Corum in there, he was floating around the 50% snap. And so for me, man, that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm really excited to see this tandem, but it lessens Kyren a bit heading into 2026.
Well, the reason why it's so uncomfortable is because you have to draft this guy as an anchor to your team.
Yes.
That's why it's scary. When you see a second back, there's one thing you're going to notice. There's not a lot of these guys, unless they're super freak athletes, and outliers. There's not a lot of these guys sharing backfields in the top 10. So if you are sharing a backfield, it does make me nervous. I think Kyren is as solid as fuck as you can get as a running back. Of course, but that's when he's the guy, when he's getting all the carries in the backfield. So if he does share, and we're going to have to pay attention to that because it should knock him down a few pegs closer to around that 15 range if he's going to be cutting in. If you got Blake Corum cutting in, taking 20% of the carries, that's going to be a problem.
I mean, John, to the point. I mean, guys, starting in week 13, looking at Blake Corum, he had 7 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. Blake Corum, week 14, 12 carries, 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. Week 15, 11 carries, 71 yards and a touchdown. Week 16, 14 carries, 48 yards, and then he gets hurt in week 17. Guys, Blake Corum was performing.
Yeah. All right, let's get to number 7 here, Frankie. We've got a huge teardrop from number 7 to number 8. It's big, yeah. It's a 30-point drop, so we're talking a couple of games extra here for these guys. So this is a whole different tier of running back we're talking about. Coming in at number 7, it's the King Henry. Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens. There he is. We were wondering where he was ending up here. 259, almost 260 fantasy points in comparison to Kyren Williams, 235. So a nice jump there. 16.2 points per game. Nice jump there as well, man. Coming in at number 7, and he was drafted as the number 4 running back. So, Frankie, talk to us about Derrick Henry here, man.
Guys, when is the king going to fall off? That's the question we all need to be. I mean, John, I'm looking through his game log and I'm shocked. I am completely in utter shock. Just over the last few years. This past year, he had almost 1,500 yards rushing. Pause. He almost had 1,500 yards rushing again. And then he had 16 rushing touchdowns. Guys, this dude is nuts. You look through the previous years, 1,900, 1,100, 1,500, 2,000, 1,500, 1,000 yards rushing. I mean, guys, this dude just doesn't fall off. But it was a weird year because when you look at what he did early on, it was almost for the first time in the career he had a floor, a low floor. I'm talking, guys, he had 2 points against Cleveland, 6 points against Kansas City, 9 points against Houston. But really, man, after the bye week in week 7, we saw him take off with only 1 week under double-digit points, and that was week 10 against Minnesota. So for me, it was the first time I looked at Derrick Henry, and I'm like, are we seeing the king with a little bit of a chink in his armor? Are we actually seeing him, the fumbling issues early on and, really, getting minimal attempts in comparison to what he's gotten in the past? So for me, is this an indicator that, we may be seeing a fall off, but then I think about it, nobody else stepped up. John, where was Keaton Mitchell? Where was Justice Hill? Where were some of these other guys that, we thought would kind of be coming in and at least getting a little bit, I'm not saying a Blake Corum-esque, but I'm saying a Basil Tootin-esque kind of thing. And we didn't see any of that. It was still King Henry. So when looking at him, I mean, guys, John, you mentioned it. Talk about a teardrop. Derrick Henry's in his own little tier. Because when we talk about the top 6, then it's a big jump to the top 6 from Derrick Henry. And then it's a big drop from Derrick Henry itself. So, John, my question to you is, 2026, are you going to be drafting Derrick Henry knowing he's probably going to still be a top 8 ADP running back and knowing you're probably going to have to take him in the top 2 rounds?
Derrick Henry's one of those guys. I've been waiting for the fall
For like
of Derrick
3
Henry
years. You literally.
forever. I feel like during COVID, I was like, oh, this is it, guys. This is the last year for Derrick Henry. Enjoy. That was 5 years ago. That's what it feels like to me, you know? I don't, man. And, at some point, I know he's defied all odds. He's
Crazy.
defied the age and the usage and the mileage and everything. I don't want to be that guy. It'll be the time I draft him to anchor my team that this motherfucker drops off the edge of the world.
Okay.
It will.
So would you rather draft Kyren Williams? This is a great would you rather. Kyren Williams knowing Blake Corum's breathing down his ass crack. Or would you rather have Derrick Henry knowing the time is coming? Father time is coming for you.
Father time is undefeated, baby.
You know what? Like, because you got to think that's your anchor. That's your anchor.
And that's the decision. I can see us doing a would you rather next year.
That's a good one.
During draft. Because I guarantee those guys are going to be right there next to each other in drafts. You're going to have to make that decision. I tend to lean towards youth. I just do. I tend to lean towards youth. If Kyren were a rookie, it'd make it way harder. But we've seen what Kyren's body of work is.
Yeah.
Derrick. And the funny thing about Derrick Henry, I was like, oh, that last game he had with 4 touchdowns, that skewed his numbers. No, it didn't. You could take that number out, and because he had 30 points above, the next guy, which was Kyren,
he would still be in that same tier.
He'd still be at number 7 right there. So, yeah, it's crazy, man. I know. Derrick Henry, there's guys who love him. There's guys who target him. I'm not one of them. I love the guy. I've never had him in fantasy, so I don't have that emotional connection to Derrick Henry. He's never hurt me or helped me. So I
love him. I fucking love him.
I'm indifferent. And it was a weird year for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean,
really weird.
They had no passing game, really. I mean, Lamar really wasn't there for much of the season. And yeah, it was weird. I think they leaned on him when they could, and he disappeared sometimes as well. If this team's healthy and this team's got it together next year, but you're right. There wasn't anybody breathing down his neck.
None.
It'd be a different story if Keaton Mitchell came back from his ACL and was just fucking blowing.
Was the TreVeyon to Ramondre.
Which he was
right
2 years ago.
Yes.
Keaton Mitchell was that guy who could bust out that 50-yard run, and he was special. We were like, oh, this is amazing.
Yes.
Didn't have that this year with him, So, yeah, I think you can draft Derrick Henry knowing he's a top 12 for sure.
Yes.
Most likely running back.
I think so.
But to anchor my team on him, I don't know. He's right there with that Kyren Williams. I'm not sure I want to anchor the team on with him. But.
And John, what's crazy too, just a call out before we move on, he had 5.12 yards per carry. Guys, that is his third most all time. Most all time in his 2025 season. And to put even more insight, he had 287 rushing attempts. Last year, 325, the year before 280, and 349 the year before. So even with doing less, having less, he did really well.
He did. All right, let's get to number 6 here, man. We have another massive tier. Okay, another 24-point jump. Okay.
Woo!
So when you're talking running backs, that's like 2 games, more in fantasy here. 284 points. Instead of the 259 out of Derrick Henry, this is James Cook, man. Okay, James Cook, running back for the Buffalo Bills, 17.8 points per game.
Ridiculous.
Oh my God. Frankie, we came into the year saying there's no chance that James Cook can score as many touchdowns as he did. What do you have, 14?
He had 16 rushing and 2 receiving, 18 total.
18 total touchdowns last year. We're like, dude, there's no chance. He was off your board, Frankie. You thought there was no chance he was going to repeat. All right, Frankie. We weren't alone here. You weren't alone, though, okay? His ADP, James Cook's ADP, this is average draft position. This is everybody, all the experts, everybody. 13. Okay, he came in at 6, man. He did repeat those touchdowns, and it's bananas. I know. Talk about James Cook and take it on the chin, bud.
You know what? I will take this one on the chin. I like to say when I'm right. Damn it, I got to say when I'm wrong. And boy, oh boy, when I said, hey, James Cook is off my board, we had a pretty graphic. I didn't just say it. We actually posted it out there.
Oh, yeah.
And he was off my board, and along with one other name that we'll get to, which was also a bad take, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. But guys, James Cook, and it was just crazy because how can you replicate 18 touchdowns again? You don't. You just have 14 total touchdowns and run for 1,600 yards this year, and has the most he's ever had. John, he had 100 more rushing attempts than he did last year. 100 more rushing attempts. He then had 1,606 yards rushing, 12 rushing touchdowns, posted a career 5.23 yards per carry. And then it's like, okay, well, he hasn't done much in the receiving end. Well, he ended up having 33 receptions on 40 targets, almost 300 yards receiving and 2 receiving touchdowns. Guys, majorly missed the mark. I'll be honest, majorly missed the mark. But I wasn't sure that, again, this could be replicated. There was a lot of things, remember, off-season wise, to where there was a contract dispute. He was doing a hold-in. There was a lot of shit going on. And then on top of it, it was like, okay, they don't really have any stud receivers. Keon Coleman has been sucking. You have Khalil Shakur, who's really the only guy, but he's a possession guy at best. And then you have 2 tight ends, one with Dalton Kincaid that you really felt good about. So in my perspective, I was like, they're going to stack the box. They're going to try to shut this cat down, and there's no way he's going to replicate the amount of touchdowns. Again, totally wrong. James Cook is that guy. They certainly paid him to be that guy. And I'm going to go on record and say this year that in 2026, I will be targeting James Cook as a second-round RB, and what I would love to see him as an RB2 on your team to maximize value. Meaning in the first round, I would love to take a CMC, even back half of first round, maybe you get a Achane or a Jameer Gibbs, if you have front end. And then you can kind of maybe get a James Cook at that snake. That is what I would see is awesome, or you could certainly do a top-tier receiver. But either way, James Cook, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the slander. And I'm sorry for not believing in you because, boy, you turned a believer into me.
You'll be hearing from his lawyer, Frankie.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
No, but James Cook, I mean, you look at his stats, though, his rushing was insane.
Insane.
To 1,600 yards compared to Josh Jacobs was about 1,000, Saquon 1,100. That's nuts. 600 yards more than those guys. His receiving was identical to Kyren, to Josh Jacobs, to Saquon. The difference, again, is touchdowns. But are we going to be having this same conversation next year? Because we don't know if those touchdowns are going to be replicable or not, If they bring in a strong receiver, say they sign, they're not going to have the draft capital to sign a guy most likely to make a huge difference. But if they sign in the offseason or bring another guy, we will start having some other conversations because then you've got another receiving option, especially if it's a big receiver who's a touchdown type guy. That could take away from James Cook. It really could.
How fun would it be if the Bills got like a Tyreek Hill? They made a splash trade. They did something insane like that. Tyreek Hill's not happy in Miami. They're doing a switch up with Tua. They have Quinn Ewers coming in. Mike McDaniel is holding on by the skin of his teeth at this point for the head coaching job. I think he will be okay for this year because of the way he ended the season. But next year, he's going to be on the hot seat. Do we see a piece of that nature being able to be on a Buffalo Bills team? If so, man, could we actually see then James Cook open up to being a top 3 guy? Could that be possible, knowing that the field will be stretched, there'll be more holes that will be open, or do we see him actually take a step back, knowing that, hey, we got other options now at this point, bud. We don't need to hand it off 100 more times than what we did the year before. So that it's interesting. You know what I mean?
This has to be James Cook's ceiling. It has to be his ceiling.
This is
1,600 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns. It's got to be. Yeah, you make a difference with 18 touchdowns like he did last year. But, come on, man. Any more talent on this team? This has to be his ceiling. So I think he's a top 10 guy no matter what because you're with Josh Allen. They don't even notice James Cook in the backfield because the entire fucking team is staring at Josh Allen.
Totally.
So, that's where this is coming from. So, yeah, double-digit touchdowns, sure. This is a very good team, and they're worried about Josh Allen in the red zone. But to see another 1,600 yards and, 14 touchdowns like that, he'll drop a little bit, yeah. But I still think it's a guy that it's a set it and forget it guy that you can anchor your team on, top 10 back, no question about it. All right, let's keep going here, man. Now we're getting into some real
top
fun.
5,
We've got
baby.
Devon Achane coming in at number 5 of the Miami Dolphins here, man. 289 points in fantasy, 18.1 points per game. 18 points a game out of your running back. It's so solid, man. Achane was drafted as the number 10 running back and has come in here at number 5 in the top 5. Talk about Devon Achane, Frankie.
Man, Devon Achane, guys. John, you called it during the year. This could be the year that he breaks fantasy. I just will never forget you saying that on that reel. By the way, that was one of the reels that went viral. Guys, Johnny wasn't that far off. When you actually look at his body of work, 1,350 rushing yards on 238 attempts, that's ridiculous, guys. That's almost 6 yards per carry. And then in addition, you look at 8 rushing touchdowns And then you have 85 targets, which is just 2 down from last year, 67 receptions, 488 yards receiving, and another 4 touchdowns. Guys, Achane's the guy. He is a super sexy piece that you can absolutely anchor your team on. I actually thought he was going to be a little too fragile because of his frame. He's not. He's super shifty. He doesn't take massive hits like he did in his rookie year and even sophomore year last year. So for me, man, I'm going to be targeting Achane just like all of you should be as well in your 2026 drafts.
5.7 yards per carry.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's not crazy. What I expected out of Achane, for sure. You know, in a season where it's just going to be him holding down the entire backfield. Very, very surprising. And this team was miserable. Just miserable.
Oh.
Tyreek Hill leaving, you know, screwed everything up. And then you had Tua, which they're not going to have next year. You know, this whole team, I think, is going to be in possibly a rebuild type situation.
Totally.
New quarterback, potentially a new coach. We'll see what happens there. But they're going to shake a lot of things up.
Yeah.
But do you see that changing anything for Achane? I mean, we've seen him share a backfield.
Sure.
We've seen him perform amazing with incredible elite receiving talent around him. And we've seen him do it with nobody else really on the field, with just him in the backfield. I think that's trust. I think that's building trust.
Exactly.
So I think in any situation, when you've got a guy like this, it's figuring out how to utilize him. I will put him almost in that tier. Almost. Of that tier with CMC, Bijan, Jameer Gibbs. You got Achane outside of the door trying to figure out the password to get into the club with those guys. He's like, guys, let me in. They're like, almost, Devon. Almost. What's the password?
Almost. Maybe in PPR, maybe in full PPR, we'll give you the password.
He's in that elite.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but in half PPR, to your point, John, I completely agree. So I think that, dude, I'm a huge believer in Achane, and I'm excited to ship for him.
He made me a believer this year. Last year, I was like, man, is this one of those flash in the pan trick guys that, you know, no, he's the real deal, man. And absolutely, I'll be all over him. He's a guy you can anchor your team on. All right. 18 points a game, guys. That's all you got to hear.
Yep.
Get him on your team. All right, let's go, Frankie. Let's go to number 4 here, man. These are the exciting guys here. Woo-hoo-hoo. Let's go. We got Jameer Gibbs. We got Gibby, Sonic himself, man, of the Detroit Lions. I really thought this guy was going to take the number 1 spot this year. I really did. Let's just look at this. 309 total fantasy points, 19.4 points per game for Jameer Gibbs. Jameer Gibbs was one of those dudes, man, that when I saw I was playing against him on the week, I was terrified. This is a guy that can and that did throw up 40, 50-point weeks multiple times during the year. Just an absolute stud. Frankie, talk about your boy.
Guys, what's crazy is I'm a huge Jameer Gibbs fan. I honestly go on record and say I think he might be the most dynamic. You can go toe-to-toe with Bijan. You can go toe-to-toe with CMC. But for me, this dude is so fun to watch. Guys, he had 1,143 yards rushing this year, averaged 5.1 yards per carry. Fun fact, in his 3 years since he's been in the NFL, he's never averaged less than 5.1 yards a carry.
Wow.
That's insane. He ended up having 13 rushing yards. But here is where he improved, which is even crazy to say that from last year. 89 targets, 74 receptions, 583 yards receiving, and 4 receiving touchdowns, bringing his total touchdown to 17 total touchdowns. Guys, Jameer Gibbs is the guy in that offense. Sure, there's Amon-Ra, who is incredible. Sure, there's Jared Goff, who's a very good, stable quarterback. Sure, there's Monty as the bruiser. But it's Jameer Gibbs, and we are truly just seeing the beginning of what he can do. I think once we figure out the OC situation in the Lions, when Ben Johnson left, we saw a massive fall off from the rushing perspective for Jameer. Guys, I think once we get that right, moving into 2026, we get a little more stable from the play calling standpoint. This is going to be just fine. So, man, Jameer Gibbs is a guy you're targeting, always and often.
Here's the thing. It's more special than that, Frankie, because he's the only guy that is truly splitting the backfield. This is not his backfield. He is truly sharing the backfield. By the way, David Montgomery, who he's sharing the backfield with, was the running back 26, by the way.
Crazy. Okay? That's crazy.
Yeah, 150 rushes, 700 yards, 8 touchdowns rushing. That was taken away from Jameer Gibbs. So, I mean, this is not his ceiling, is my point. Anything happens to Monty or they shift that or anything happens contractually, I mean, you give this guy another, it's not going to be 150 carries, but give him another 70 carries?
Yeah. Oh,
Give him, I mean, what are we talking
5 yards
about?
a carry.
This guy would break fantasy if he had that backfield alone. So, yeah, man.
What does that
Wheels
do, John?
up, keep going.
So 70 times 5.1, 357 additional yards. You're talking he's at 1,500, 1,600 yards at that point? Shit.
Yeah. Then you're talking about running back 1 or 2.
Right, exactly.
At that point, yeah. All right, let's keep going. These guys are fun here. Let's get to my boy. This is a guy, pony I hung my hat on this year.
Go.
Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons, 325 fantasy points. Believe it or not, he had almost 20 points more than Jameer Gibbs, which is shocking to me. Look at his game average, Frankie. 20.3 points per game. Over 20 points a game fantasy average. And it felt kind of quietly.
It did.
I mean, it was never like, it wasn't like the end of the week we're doing the show and it was like, oh my God, Bijan.
Crazy.
Holy shit. Dude just did his job every fucking week. He was just super solid. 20 points a game. Talk.
John, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm laughing. You took him 101. You made a hell of a trade in our big league to take him and paired him with Jamar Chase. And it was just crazy. It was absolutely crazy to see. And then you look at, okay, well, he ended up having 1,400 yards rushing this year. He had 7 rushing touchdowns. He had 5.31 yards per carry, which is all great. What I'm about to read is mind-blowing. He had 100 targets, 76 receptions, 810 yards receiving, and 4 receiving touchdowns. Guys, he had 10.66 yards per catch. Per catch. The running back. Guys, this dude, and I talked about Jameer Gibbs and arguably him being the most dynamic. Bijan Robinson, I don't know if I've ever seen a guy that can stop so quickly on a dime, shift, and go. I don't know if I've ever seen, I mean, it goes back to the days of Emmett. It goes back to the days of Walter Payton. It goes back to the days of Barry Sanders, to where you see that level of start and stop and the agility that he has. I mean, honestly, man, all you can say is, watch this dude have fun and get him on your team. I mean, these next guys, you want every single one of them. I mean, there isn't one that you don't want. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now he's special, man. I mean, it's really fun to see that because he's also been kind of disappointing. I mean, you knew he was like CMC.
Totally.
And his first 2 years in the league, you're like, okay, where is it? Where is it? Give it.
Yes.
That was Arthur Smith not utilizing him properly.
Big time.
You know, I think the quarterback play wasn't very good either, so there were some issues there. But man, next year, now, are we gonna? Is it gonna be the Michael Penix show? You know, next year
Could be.
Yeah,
Could be.
Do you trust Bijan doing what he did this year with Michael Penix Jr.?
I do. I do. For
I
sure.
think he's one of the safest guys. You know, he's right there. Jameer Gibbs, Bijan, and CMC. These guys are just fucking special, man.
Definitely.
I mean, I can't think of any scenarios other than injury that would keep me away from them.
Yep.
Really? Okay. All right, let's move on. We love these guys. All right, let's get to number 2 here. Now, number 1 and number 2 could vary depending on your scoring format.
Yes.
We're looking at half-point PPR. So we're going to bring this guy into number 2. According to half-point PPR, it's Jonathan Taylor, JT, with the Indianapolis Colts. 334 points on the year, 20.9 fantasy points per game, almost 21 points per game. Jonathan Taylor, drafted at number 9, came right in at number 1 or 2, depending on how you look at it. But Frankie, talk about JT, man. What happened here?
Complete workhorse. Guys, we saw JT actually be that dude. 1,500 yards, almost 1,600 yards rushing, 18 rushing touchdowns. John, I remember in week 10, you and I are sitting there cracking up because half of his weeks leading up to week 10 were 3 touchdown games.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's absurd. And then you look at his receiving, which historically has been bad. Guys, he had 53 targets, 44 receptions, almost 400 yards receiving and 2 receiving touchdowns. That is very good for JT.
Saquon,
Those are
Kyren.
Saquon-esque type of, receiving metrics.
That's exactly what they got. Yeah.
Dude, for me, man, 2026, guys, you're going to draft JT. I just want, though, to be, you got to call this out. When Danny Dimes got hurt, okay, we saw a massive drop-off. I mean, off a cliff. Guys, when you look at after their bye week, 7 points, 13 points, 11, 11, 15, 15. Okay, before that, 52, 38, 32, 22, 30, 34, 31.
Yeah.
Okay, like Massive difference. So for me, guys, we gotta understand who is going to be at the helm from a quarterback standpoint. If it's Danny Dimes, if they bring him back, fire up JT. Assuming Danny Dimes performs to the level of what he did. Let's say they move on from Danny Dimes and they go with A-Rich. Guys, which I don't think will happen, but JT drops down my board quite a bit because there goes the goal line touchdowns and things like that. So for me, it's just I got to see what's going on from a quarterback perspective in terms of where I'm taking JT. You're taking JT. It's not a matter of if you draft him or you don't. It's where the value is going to be in taking it.
Absolutely. He has to have a prolific passing offense, or at least a manageable and decent passing attack. But if he's got that, then absolutely. Wheels up, draft him, go apeshit, draft him in the top 5 of running backs. I have him in that Saquon category.
Yeah.
Saquon,
yes.
Kyren Williams, Chase Brown.
He's the better of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, because he's got the biggest
tier.
upside.
Yep.
I think he has the biggest upside. If that team can throw the ball and teams have to respect the pass, JT can go apeshit. We've seen him do it multiple times. I mean, the guy was an MVP candidate a few years ago, years ago. So, yeah, we've seen that happen. But he's not Bijan, Jameer Gibbs, CMC.
John, what about James Cook? I'm curious on this. Let's say everything stays as is. Are you drafting James Cook in 2026 over JT or JT over James Cook?
I'm taking James Cook over JT. And
I'm opposite.
I'm taking him strictly because I know that team's going to be good.
Sure.
I know that team's going to have a lot of goal line and red zone opportunities, and they have Josh Allen. You have to account for that. When you have a running quarterback, it massively increases a running back's value, typically. So that'll be the difference. Now, if Danny Dimes comes out and looks great,
it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I want what JT did, at least early in the season when he's got those multiple touchdown games. I want that, yeah. So really interesting stuff, man. But I love him. All right, let's move on to number one. Number one with a bullet.
Oh,
I gotta preface this with, we took so much shit, and I know YouTube's just brutal. I know it's insane out there, but man, the comments we took because of our CMC love going into this year was
brutal,
crazy. It was
grueling, dude.
But what was everybody looking at is what I want to know. Well, we're going to go through it right now. Number one running back in fantasy football was Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. 356 total fantasy points. This is a half-point PPR. Guys, Jonathan Taylor was the number 2 running back, 334. CMC was 356. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. We're looking at a difference between Derrick Henry at number,
7.
Number 7, 259 points. Christian McCaffrey had 100 more fantasy points than Derrick Henry this year.
Insane.
100 points, you guys.
That's insane.
He averaged 22.3 points per game. 22 points per game and a half PPR, Frank, is what he averaged. I'm going to unzip his pants, and I'm going to let you have it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to have a piece of this, man. Let me tell you. Because I drafted this dude. Yeah. Because you know why? It was pick 6 in the big family league, and I said there's no reason why CMC should still be on this board. And we got so much shit for it. And I'll tell you what, man, here's why. Guys, yes, he has gotten banged up in 24, in 21, and in 2020. I understand that. But outside of his rookie year, okay, and if he played more than 7 games in a season, guys, he has been either running back 1 or running back 2. And that means there has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons with that amount of data showing that. Which means that this dude, if he is healthy, which you're not planning on anybody not being healthy, right? So if he is healthy, you need to be drafting him 101, 102, 103, depending on however you feel. Guys, Christian McCaffrey is so good that he had 1,200 yards rushing, 10 rushing touchdowns. And this stat, dude, is the most craziest shit I've ever seen. 129 targets from a running back. For a running back, 129 targets. Guys, 102 receptions and 924 yards receiving. Guys, he's averaging 9 yards per catch. 9 yards per catch. He's averaging 4 yards per carry. And he had 7 receiving touchdowns, so he had 17 total touchdowns. Guys, in full PPR, CMC is a king. He's a god, right? In that level. In half PPR, he's a step down. He's a prince or a king or whatever the hell it is you want to say. He is so good. And for me, guys, I want to tell everybody else who drafted him and you're in a keeper league, that will be my keeper. I'm giving up my first round pick to keep CMC because, guys, yeah, I know he's getting up there in age a little bit. He'll be turning 30 coming up here soon. But, dude, I'm saying with them now having Bijan Robinson, they can take a little bit more off of him to be able to exploit him even further in the passing attack. Guys, Ricky Pearsall's been banged up. Juwan Jennings has been banged up. George Kittle's been banged up. Brock Purdy's been banged up. And this team is still the number 2 team, quote unquote, in the NFC after this past week. So for me, man, CMC, you're the king. This was an unbelievable year to see him, man. And I'm so excited for 2026.
List off those targets, receptions, and yards one more time. Receiving.
129 targets, 102 receptions, and 924 yards receiving through 17 weeks.
So basically Chris Olave.
He's Chris Olave from a receiving end with Josh Jacobs. No, with Kyren Williams from the rushing end. That's the best way to look at it. He's Kyren Williams from the rushing end from a data perspective, and he's Chris Olave from a receiving perspective in one player.
He was a better receiver only, I'm talking just his receptions, than Cortland Sutton, than A.J. Brown.
That's great.
Jameson Williams, Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, bananas, right?
That's crazy.
This is a running back, okay? And we're talking he's a top 10 receiver as well.
Guys, he's number 2 overall. Think about what I'm saying. Over quarterbacks. He's number 2 overall fantasy player behind Josh Allen. That's it. It's Josh Allen, then CMC. That's absurd. That's crazy, dude.
So you're saying draft CMC next year?
So,
don't play the games.
You can debate it. Debate it,
Yeah, okay.
Draft his ass. Get you some white lightning.
All right, guys, that is your top 20 running backs and your fantasy finishes of 2025. Please also look out. We've got top 15 quarterbacks. We've got top 12 tight ends, and we've got top 20 receivers as well. And next year, guys, before your draft, we're going to wrap all this into a bow and have one big compilation episode so you can look back and say, oh, shit, who were the top 20 running backs? It's these guys. All right, Frankie, what else do we have coming up, man?
Guys, so we're going to be diving into the top 20 receivers and finishing off with the top 12 tight ends. And then, Johnny, to your point, guys, we're going to bring this all together to give you insight into who we need to be looking at for your 2026 drafts.
All right, let's do it. May the fantasy gods smile upon you. Bye.